Oh, Anthony, I saw you on TV and you said that Bitcoin is like digital gold, one of the sheikhs told me. I was in Saudi Arabia at the time. I replied, yes, sir. Well, let me tell you something he says. It's better than gold. I'll tell you why. He says, right now I'm getting along well with the king and the crown prince. I'm not going to need a bone saw. But if I ever get into a fight with these people, he said, I have $300 million on a USB. I can put that somewhere on my body or stick it where the sun doesn't shine and cross the border into Yemen or get out of here on a boat with my money. That's not possible with gold. Anthony Scaramuccio started and runs Skybridge Capital, a different source of capital. As an asset manager and financial advisor, he has very high hopes for Bitcoin, which is the biggest cryptocurrency by market cap. Anthony, who used to be the head of communications for the White House, thinks that Bitcoin could be a way to protect against rising prices and the US's huge $34 trillion national debt. He says that Bitcoin is one of the few investments that can't be lost to inflation or the fast devaluation of fiat currencies by central banks. Anthony, who has put several $100 million into cryptocurrency, told Benzinga in October, if you have higher demand for gold, we'll build more mines. You can only get so many Bitcoins. Anthony says that gold and Bitcoin are more alike in a newer movie with David Lynn. Both things are often thought of as similar, but they are very different. Bitcoin is the most valuable digital asset in the world. It is also the basis of the digital change that is sweeping the global financial industry. Anthony is very positive about spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, or ETFs. He thinks that big investors in charge of tens of trillions of dollars will continue to be interested in them. In an analogy, he talks about the SPDR Gold Trust ETF and how gold prices went through the roof after it was approved and put into service. Anthony thinks Bitcoin will go in the same direction. He thinks its price could skyrocket to $250,000 when the Bitcoin ETFs get $100 billion in investments. Here are some clips from Anthony's most recent talk with David Lynn. Before we go, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you can see more movies about Bitcoin and other digital assets. For the channel's growth, everything you do is very helpful for the YouTube system. Thanks and have fun. You need to begin with this idea. What kind of source of value would people be willing to accept in the digital world? Then there's the if question, and the answer is yes, if it met all the criteria that people have traditionally looked for: a place to store value, a lack of it, an easy way to use it, and something they can trust so that they can pass it around and know the value stays the same. So for 5,000 years, a group of us used gold. I believe there were more than one. The computer programmers who worked with Satoshi Nakamoto came up with a way to code and make software that would allow us to have an autonomous database in the future. Because of this decentralized database, we could have a link to each other that doesn't require authority. To put it simply, I can pay you over this network without using a third party. They are very different from other things. This system is really one of a kind, and someone came up with it about 15 years ago. The technology grew as more people used it and learned how to use it. Right now I'm finishing up a book for John Wiley. The Little Book of Bitcoin is the name of it. What you need to know that Wall Street already knows. Wall Street already knows this. They put in for these ETFs and are selling them as a possible extra way to keep value, like gold. So yes, this is a new asset. In the United States, only 5% of people use it. If it keeps growing and being used at the same rate as the last 10 years, this could be worth $300,000, $400,000, $400,000 or $500,000. So to give your watchers and listeners some background, if gold is worth $16 trillion, Bitcoin is worth $1.5 trillion. In 15 years, could Bitcoin grow by 10 times? I think it can. I think it has the technical qualities to do that, and we can already see that happening. Things are already moving in that direction. Bitcoin is still following a tech stock right now. It's following NVIDIA. Usually we would have called these text logs the Magnificent Seven or the Super Six. They keep track of things like Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, Facebook, Apple, and so on. And yes, that is being tracked right now. It's not fully grown up yet. As soon as it's fully grown, it will start to behave like gold. Yes, you did lower rates. You are going to make stock leadership in the markets bigger. If rates are lowered, it will help the real estate market, especially in the US. I've also said over and over that the Fed will cut rates at least 3 times this year. Wall Street said about 2 months ago that there would be few to no rate cuts. They are now saying that the Fed needs to do a lot of browbeating and moral suasion to change their minds, but I don't think they have a choice. That's why rates will go down. They don't want the economy to get too bad. The United States is facing very high interest rates on its debt, and inflation rates are going down. What we talked about with Lynn was. Scaramuccio talks about how politics are changing in the US, focusing on Bitcoin and other digital assets. Willie, a well-known on-chain Bitcoin analyst, made a statement about Bitcoin on Twitter in 2021. It will be political death to talk badly about Bitcoin in the next 3 years, he wrote. As expected, a lot of people didn't like the forecast. Many people have said bad things about the post. One of them says, "My man, you really live in an echo chamber." For the next 3 years, backing Bitcoin will be political suicide for more than half of the people who do it. Getting behind Bitcoin is quickly turning into the new smoking. A different poster said it would be at least 100 years before crypto became a major political issue. These guesses were so off. Several US presidential candidates, including Donald Trump, who was president before, have openly backed Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Democrats used to really dislike cryptocurrencies, but now they're going against their party to support policies that are good for them. A lot of people who support cryptocurrencies have said that lawmakers are finally starting to understand how strongly people feel about them. This isn't just a passing trend or something that only a few people are interested in. Financial freedom is at stake, and everyone who understands how serious the situation is will do everything they can to make sure their chosen officials hear them and look out for their best interests. The government didn't like Uber. Police and the government did not want Uber. The people wanted Uber, but mayors of both small and big cities didn't want it. I don't think it's possible. More than one number shows up when you search for how many people in the US own crypto on Google. Different people say it's between 50 and 90 million, but let's say it's 80 million. David, 65 million people in the US have dogs. You don't want to miss it if you're there and see it. Let's say that 1% of the 80 million people who own it are in split states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and so on. That's 800,000. David, what are you going to do? You're not going to win the race. I think the Biden team blocked this bill last week, but they did get the Ethereum stuff passed even though Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren didn't want it. I believe they will change their minds. They changed their minds at the border. They just signed orders that will stop people and cars from crossing the line. As of now, I think they're going to focus on Bitcoin and other crypto assets. I don't think Biden, who is a centrist, wants to be kept in the dark about this. Do not lose it. This race is very close. I don't think Joe Biden wants to lose this race because Elizabeth Warren or Gary Gensler changed their minds at the last minute. I get why people want to own gold. I get why people have been using gold for 5,000 years, but it's not as easy to use. It's not as easy to move around as Bitcoin. This is what I will say to you. It's a little graphic, but I'll show it to you anyway. Oh, Anthony, I saw you on TV and you said that Bitcoin is like digital gold, one of the sheikhs told me. I was in Saudi Arabia at the time. Yes, sir? Well, let me tell you something he says. It's better than gold. I'll tell you why. He says, right now I'm getting along well with the king and the crown prince. I'm not going to need a bone saw. But if I ever get into a fight with these people, he said, I have $300 million on a USB. I can put that somewhere on my body or stick it where the sun doesn't shine and cross the border into Yemen or get out of here on a boat with my money. That's not possible with gold. That should be something you say on TV. Since